My name is Madeline Rivera. I am 25 years old, and I work as a creative content specialist in the fashion and beauty industry in New York City. Every day, my job revolves around images, colors, faces, and the art of presentation. It feels almost natural for me because beauty has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. From the earliest days of my childhood, I was surrounded by palettes, brushes, and mirrors. While other little girls played with dolls or plastic toys, I would sneak into my mother's vanity, open the small drawers, and marvel at the endless rows of lipsticks, powders, and shimmering shadows. To me, it wasn't just makeup, it was magic, a mysterious ritual that could transform a tired face into something radiant, a small gesture that could bring confidence, even power. My mother, Elena Rivera, was more than just a mother to me. She was a visionary. She built her own cosmetic brand from nothing, a name that quickly became respected and beloved. I remember watching her walk through department stores where her products were proudly displayed, women lining up to test them, whispering with excitement as if holding a treasure. And I would watch, standing a little taller, swelling with pride, whispering to myself, "That's my mother. That's her work, her dream." When I was 6, I remember tugging on her sleeve, holding a tiny brush clumsily in my hand. "Mommy, can I try?" I asked, my voice full of impatience. She laughed softly, kneeling down to my level. "Not yet, sweetheart. You're still too young. But one day, this will all be yours to play with." Her voice carried a promise, and I believed her completely. By the time I was 9, I was already copying her movements. I would sit in front of the mirror with a plastic palette I had begged her to buy me. Of course, it was just child-safe colors, nothing real, but in my mind, I was an artist. I would whisper to my reflection, "You are beautiful. You are strong." I didn't even understand why I said it, but something deep inside me felt the words mattered. My mother often worked late nights. I remember the glow of the lamp on her desk, her face bent over new formulations, testing shades, blending powders, writing notes. Sometimes she would look up, catch me staring, and smile with exhaustion and pride. "Madeline, promise me one thing," she once said. "Always remember that beauty is not just what people see, it's how you carry yourself, how you survive when the world tries to tear you down." At that age, I didn't fully understand her words, but they sank into me, layer by layer, like the foundation she so carefully applied to her models. Growing up, makeup wasn't just a hobby I picked up, it was the air I breathed. Other kids would look at me strangely when I spoke about my dreams. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" they would ask. "A makeup artist, like my mom," I answered with conviction. They laughed sometimes, as if it was a childish dream. But I didn't care. I had already seen what makeup could do. How it could give a shy woman the courage to face a crowd. How it could help my mother stand proudly after exhausting battles with investors or critics. There were nights when I would sneak into her studio. The shelves stood tall, lined with prototypes and samples. I would touch the lids carefully, afraid to disturb her work. Sometimes I would even dab a little blush onto my cheeks, staring into the mirror with wide eyes. And in that moment, I felt transformed. Not older, not different, but stronger. One particular evening stands out. I had put on one of her red lipsticks, far too bold for a 12-year-old. She caught me in the act. I froze, terrified of being scolded, but instead, she tilted her head, studied me, and smiled. "You know, you wear red well. One day it will suit you even more." Her words wrapped around me like a secret blessing, one that stayed with me for years. As I grew older, I realized makeup was not just a shield. It was a story. Every color carried meaning. Every product held a memory. The soft pink blush my mother wore when she first launched her brand. The bold eyeliner she used when facing reporters, the gentle nude lipstick she saved for quiet Sunday mornings with me. These details became the language of our lives. Looking back now, it feels inevitable that I ended up here, in New York, in the heart of the beauty industry. But back then, all I knew was the warmth of my mother's hands, the scent of powder on her clothes, the glimmer of confidence in her smile. She was everything I aspired to be, and I told myself again and again, one day, Madeline, you will carry her dream forward. You will not let it fade. Even now, when I stand under the bright lights of studios, when I plan campaigns and direct photo shoots, I carry her voice with me. The child who once whispered to the mirror has grown, but she still whispers. She still believes in the magic of transformation. And yet, as much as makeup gave me pride and identity, it also planted a seed of fear, because deep inside I began to wonder, what if without it, I am nothing? But that fear, that question, would only grow stronger later, when love entered the picture. For now, all I knew was that I was Madeline Rivera, the daughter of Elena Rivera, the girl who believed makeup could change everything. I still remember the night everything fell apart, the night my mother's dream, the brand she had built with her own hands, began to crumble in front of thousands of eyes. It was supposed to be a celebration, a live broadcast, a model showing off one of my mother's newest products, a foundation she had perfected after years of testing. The cameras were on, the lights were bright, and my mother stood just off to the side, watching proudly. I was at home, streaming it on my laptop, my heart racing with excitement. This is it, I whispered to myself. This is her moment. But then, something went horribly wrong. The model's smile faltered. Her hand went to her cheek. Within seconds, red blotches spread across her skin. She gasped, clawing at her face as the audience erupted in panic. People shouted. The cameraman zoomed in, catching every terrible detail. The live chat exploded with words like toxic, dangerous, fraud. I sat frozen, unable to move, as my mother rushed forward. "Stop the cameras! Stop it now!" I heard her voice break through the chaos, but it was too late. The footage had already gone viral. By the time the live stream ended, the damage was done. That night, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Friends texted me asking what had happened. Critics posted articles within hours. The headlines were brutal. Rivera brand ruins model's face on live TV. No one wanted to wait for answers. No one cared about the truth. They wanted blood, and they got it. Days turned into weeks, and an investigation finally revealed the truth. The model had been injected with counterfeit Botox by a shady clinic. Her skin was already damaged long before she ever touched my mother's product. It had nothing to do with the foundation, nothing to do with my mother's brand. But by then, it didn't matter. The internet had made up its mind. The brand was toxic. My mother was careless. Her reputation, her empire, was destroyed. I remember coming home one evening, finding her sitting in the dark, papers scattered across the table, boxes of unsold products stacked in the hallway. She looked so small, so fragile, a shadow of the woman I admired. "Mom," I whispered, stepping closer. She didn't look up at first. When she finally did, her eyes were tired but determined. "Madeline," she said softly, "they won't believe the truth. Not anymore. But you know what?" Her hands trembled as she reached for her brushes. "I will show them another way." She set me down in front of the mirror, the same mirror I had stared into as a child. With careful hands, she began to apply the foundation everyone now feared. Her movements were steady, almost defiant. The cool touch of the brush against my skin felt different that night. Heavier, more meaningful. "Look," she said, her voice steady, almost sharp. See? No reaction, no harm. This product is safe, safer than anything else out there. It's not the makeup that destroys people, Madeline. It's lies. Lies are poison. I looked at my reflection, my face glowing under the lamp, and I believed her. Every stroke of her brush felt like armor being laid on me. Invisible, but powerful. That night, makeup stopped being just a childhood fascination. It became a shield, a way to fight back against a cruel world that could take everything from you in seconds. Later, she recorded a video. The two of us sitting side by side, her hands steady as she applied the product on both our faces. She spoke directly to the camera. My name is Elena Rivera, and I stand by what I create. My products are safe. The truth will come out, but until then, I will not let lies silence me. The video didn't go viral. It didn't save her company. By then, the world had already moved on, chasing the next scandal. But for me, it changed everything. From that day forward, I never looked at makeup the same way again. It wasn't play. It wasn't decoration. It was armor. It was survival. When I pressed lipstick to my lips, it was not just color. It was courage. When I drew eyeliner along my eyes, it wasn't just beauty. It was defiance. I became obsessed, not with vanity, but with control. Because makeup had saved my mother in that moment, given her dignity even as the world tried to tear her apart. And I swore I would carry that lesson with me no matter what. Even now, years later, whenever I open a compact or twist a lipstick tube, I hear her voice. It's not makeup that destroys, it's lies. Those words echo in me. They remind me of the night everything burned down, and the night I found my armor. It was an evening in early spring, one of those nights in New York when the air carries just a hint of warmth, as if promising the city will finally thaw from its long winter. I had been invited to a networking event, one of those gatherings where creative people, influencers, and industry professionals swirl around with glasses of champagne, speaking in quick bursts about opportunities, collaborations, dreams. I didn't want to go at first. Crowds exhaust me. And though I live in beauty and fashion, I am not the kind of woman who glides into a room with effortless ease. But Sophie, my closest friend, had insisted. Come on, Mads, she had urged. You need to meet people. You never know. Tonight could change everything. I never imagined how right she would be. The venue was lit with soft golden lights. Music thumped gently in the background, not loud enough to drown conversation, but enough to keep the energy alive. I stood near the back, a glass of sparkling water in hand, my face carefully painted, foundation flawless, lips painted with a shade of crimson that made me feel bolder than I actually was. That was when I saw him, Chris Dalton. He was standing near the center of the room, engaged in conversation with a small group. Tall, confident, with an easy smile that seemed to draw people in like moths to a flame. There was something about the way he carried himself. Not arrogant, but assured, as if he knew exactly where he belonged. And when his eyes met mine, just for a fleeting second, I felt my stomach tighten. I looked away quickly, pretending to sip my drink. But a moment later, he was walking toward me. Every step he took seemed deliberate, smooth, like a man used to commanding attention. Hi, he said, his voice warm, low. I don't think we've met. I'm Chris. I smiled, trying to keep my cool. Madeline, I replied softly. My voice sounded smaller than I intended. Well, Madeline, he said, his eyes steady on mine. I have to say, you look like someone who belongs in the spotlight. What do you do? His words made me laugh nervously. I work in creative content, mostly fashion and beauty campaigns. Ah, he nodded, the smile never fading. Now it makes sense. You look like someone who knows beauty inside and out. It was just a line. I knew it. But still, something about the way he said it made me believe he meant it. And for the first time in a long while, I let myself lean into the warmth of another person's admiration. We talked that night about work, about art, about the city. His stories flowed easily, his charm effortless. By the time the evening ended, he had asked for my number, and though I hesitated for half a heartbeat, I gave it to him. The days that followed blurred into messages, phone calls, and long walks through the city. Chris made me laugh, something I hadn't done freely in a while. He seemed to see me, to understand me. At least that's what I wanted to believe. But here's the truth I couldn't ignore. Every time I met him, I painted my face like armor, not a single encounter without makeup. Not a single date where I let my bare skin breathe in front of him. I told myself it was normal. After all, I worked in beauty. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. It was fear. Fear that if he saw me without the perfect eyeliner, without the soft glow of blush, without the lips painted carefully in shades of rose or crimson, he wouldn't find me beautiful anymore. Fear that the illusion would break, and I would be left exposed. Unwanted. Sometimes, when Chris would lean closer, his eyes scanning my face with that familiar admiration, I would catch myself wondering, what if he saw me without it? Would his eyes still hold the same warmth? Late at night, lying awake after another date, I would touch my cheek, feeling the layers of foundation still resting there, unwashed. I couldn't let him see me bare. Not yet. Not ever, maybe. One evening, as we sat together at a small cafe, he reached across the table, brushing his fingers gently against my hand. "You know," he said with that charming smile, "you always look so flawless, like you just stepped out of a magazine." I forced a laugh, though my heart tightened. "Maybe it's just good lighting," I replied. He shook his head, still smiling. "No, it's you." His words should have comforted me, but instead they felt heavy, because I knew he wasn't seeing me. He was seeing the mask, the painted face I presented to the world. And so, even as our relationship deepened, dinners, late-night talks, stolen kisses in the quiet streets of Manhattan, there was always a wall between us. A wall of powders, lipsticks, shadows. A wall that I had built, brick by brick, brushstroke by brushstroke. I wanted him to love me, but more than that, I wanted him to love the version of me I was too afraid to show. Yet every time I thought of revealing my bare face, my heart would race, my palms would sweat, and I told myself, not today, not tonight, maybe someday, but that someday never came. Instead, my fear grew, and though Chris held my hand and kissed my lips, though he whispered sweet things under the glow of city lights, a quiet voice inside me asked again and again, does he love me, or does he only love the mask I wear? Living with Chris felt like walking on a delicate tightrope, suspended high above a truth I was too afraid to face. Every gesture, every kiss, every laugh between us seemed perfect on the surface. But underneath, I carried a secret burden, one he never noticed, because I never allowed him to. From the very beginning, I made sure of it. I never let him see me without makeup. Not once. Whenever we had plans, no matter how small, I prepared as if it were a red carpet premiere. If he called and said, "I'll drop by in 20 minutes," I would rush to the mirror, my hands trembling as I layered foundation over my skin, filled in my brows, traced the careful line of eyeliner that had become my signature. By the time he arrived, I would greet him with a calm smile, as though I had looked that way all along. He never suspected. Why would he? To him, I was always flawless, always glowing. But the truth was, behind that glow was exhaustion, fear, and an endless cycle I couldn't escape. When he stayed over, the anxiety reached its peak. I would lie beside him, feeling the weight of his arm draped across me, listening to the slow rhythm of his breath, and though I longed to close my eyes and drift into rest, I couldn't, because on my skin, the mask remained. Hours would pass until I was sure he was deeply asleep. Only then would I slip out of bed, moving like a thief. The bathroom light was always dim, casting shadows across the mirror as I began my secret ritual. One by one, I wiped away the layers, foundation staining the cotton pads, lipstick smearing faintly across my lips, mascara leaving dark smudges under my eyes. Sometimes I whispered to myself, "This is me. This is the face he cannot see." And each time a wave of shame followed. I would stare into my bare reflection, freckles peeking through, redness along my cheeks, the unevenness of skin I had spent years concealing. And in that silence, I felt small, unworthy. I told myself Chris would never look at me the same way if he saw this version. When I returned to bed, I would curl against him, pretending I had been there all along. He never stirred, and I never slept peacefully. Morning was even worse. Before dawn painted the sky, before his alarm ever rang, I would already be awake. I would tiptoe back into the bathroom and begin the transformation once more. Foundation, concealer, powder, blush, mascara, lipstick. Each step performed with the speed and precision of someone who had rehearsed it 1,000 times. Because I had. By the time Chris opened his eyes, I would be waiting with a gentle smile, hair brushed, face glowing. He would stretch, yawn, pull me into his arms and whisper, "How do you always look this perfect in the morning?" I laughed softly, hiding the ache in my chest. "Maybe I'm just lucky," I replied. But inside, I knew luck had nothing to do with it. The cycle repeated, night after night, morning after morning. What should have been intimacy, the vulnerability of sharing yourself with someone, became a performance. I was both the actress and the director of my own charade, and the stage never closed. Sometimes, as we lay together, he would brush his fingers across my cheek and say, "You're so beautiful, Maddie, like something out of a dream." I smiled, whispered back, "Thank you." But deep down, my heart ached, because what he loved wasn't me. It was the illusion I created. I remember one night vividly. I had been so tired, my body heavy with exhaustion, my eyes burning. Chris had fallen asleep quickly, his arm heavy around my waist. I told myself, maybe tonight I won't get up. Maybe tonight I'll let the mask stay on until morning, smudged and imperfect. But as the minutes ticked by, panic grew inside me. What if he woke before me? What if he saw the smudges, the dark circles, the truth bleeding through the cracks? The fear became unbearable, and so I slipped quietly from the bed and performed the ritual once again, even though my hands trembled from fatigue. By dawn, I was already back in place, lips tinted, cheeks glowing. When Chris stirred, blinking awake, he smiled and murmured, "You're unreal, you know that? No one looks this good without trying." I forced a laugh. Maybe it's just who I am. But inside, the words echoed bitterly. It's not who I am. It's who I pretend to be. That was the cruelest part. Not only was I hiding from him, I was hiding from myself. The girl I once was, the child who sat before a mirror and whispered, "You are strong," felt like a stranger. Now all I heard was another voice, louder, harsher. "You're only strong if the mask stays on. Without it, you are nothing." I wanted to believe Chris cared for me, that his affection went deeper than skin. But every time I looked into his eyes, every time he praised my flawless face, the same question haunted me, growing louder, heavier, more insistent. Does he love me? or does he only love the mask I wear? I had reached a breaking point. The endless mornings of waking before dawn, the quiet nights of slipping into the bathroom to remove the mask, the constant fear that one day he would catch me. It was eating me alive. And so I decided to test him, to finally face the question that haunted me. Does he love me, or does he only love the mask I wear? It was a Sunday morning when I made my choice. Chris had mentioned almost absent-mindedly that he would be at his favorite cafe that day, the one tucked on the corner of 7th Avenue, a cozy place where he said he could think better while sipping his espresso. I knew he would be there, reading the paper, tapping at his laptop, looking every bit the picture of a man who belonged to the city. That morning, I stood in front of my mirror, but for once, I didn't reach for the brushes. My hand hovered over the foundation bottle, and then slowly, deliberately, I pulled it back. I took a deep breath, opened a drawer, and instead of makeup, I pulled out a plain white t-shirt and a pair of jeans. I looked at myself, freckles visible, dark circles under my eyes, lips bare. It felt strange, like staring at a stranger. But this was me. The me I had hidden from Chris since the day we met. Okay, Madeline, I whispered to my reflection. If he really loves you, he'll see you. He'll know you. The cafe was buzzing when I arrived. I spotted him instantly. Chris, seated by the window, his usual spot, a half-empty cup of espresso on the table. My heart pounded so loudly I thought people around me could hear it. I walked closer, each step heavier than the last. He glanced up briefly, his eyes flicking across me, but there was no recognition. None. Instead, he smiled, the same smile that had once made me melt. "Hey there," he said smoothly, leaning back in his chair. "You here alone?" For a second, I froze. "Chris, it's me," I wanted to say, but I didn't. I wanted to see what he would do. "Yes," I answered softly, taking the seat across from him. He grinned, his charm dripping like honey. "Well, lucky me," he said. "I don't usually meet someone this pretty on a Sunday morning." My throat tightened. Pretty, but not recognizable. Not to him. I forced myself to play along, though my stomach churned. "Oh, don't you have a girlfriend?" I asked lightly, my voice trembling under the words. Chris chuckled, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "I do, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy good company. You know how it is." The words hit me like a blade, sharp, final, cruel. He didn't see me. He didn't know me. Without the mask, I was invisible. And worse, he was willing to betray the girl he thought he was dating, me, for a stranger who looked nothing like his illusion. I stared at him, fighting the sting of tears. In that moment, the truth crystallized, clear and merciless. Chris had never loved me. He had only ever loved the painted version, the illusion I built. The mask. "Excuse me," I whispered, standing abruptly. He tilted his head, confused, but I didn't wait for a response. I walked out of the cafe, my chest aching, my breath shallow. The city noise roared around me, but all I could hear were his words echoing in my mind. "I do, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy good company." Outside, leaning against the brick wall, I closed my eyes. Tears threatened to spill, but then a familiar voice broke through the haze. "Mads?" I turned to see Sophie Lane, my closest friend, standing just a few steps away. She had been inside the cafe, too. She had seen everything. Her expression was a mix of anger and sorrow. "You don't deserve this," she said firmly. "He's not worth it, not a single tear." I shook my head, my voice barely a whisper. "He didn't even recognize me, Sophie. Without makeup, I was just nobody. Sophie stepped closer, gripping my hand tightly. No, you are you. And if he can't see that, then he's blind. Men like him don't change, Mads. They only take. It's time you stopped letting him take from you. Her words wrapped around me, grounding me in a way I desperately needed. For the first time, anger flickered in my chest, burning hotter than the shame. Sophie's eyes hardened. "You want my advice?" she asked, her voice low, almost dangerous. "Don't cry over him. Make him regret ever underestimating you. If he only loves the mask, then let's show him what happens when the mask comes off." I met her gaze, and for the first time since walking into that cafe, I felt something other than pain. I felt resolve, the beginnings of a plan, the spark of revenge. After the cafe, after the way Chris looked at me without recognition, after his careless words about having a girlfriend but still wanting to enjoy good company, something inside me shifted. The ache in my chest hardened into something sharper, colder, not just heartbreak, but resolve. So when Chris called a week later, his voice sweet as ever, inviting me on a short trip together, a weekend getaway at a luxury hotel outside the city, I didn't hesitate. I said yes. But inside, my mind was already turning, already shaping the plan that Sophie and I had whispered about. This wasn't going to be another weekend for him to admire my painted mask. This time, he would come face to face with the truth, and I would make sure he could never forget it. Sophie sat across from me at my apartment the night before the trip, her eyes fierce, her laptop open, a list forming between us. "Okay," she said, tapping the keys quickly. "Step 1, we set the scene. We give him reasons to doubt, reasons to sweat. Make him believe there's another woman in that room." I nodded slowly, sipping my tea, though my hands trembled slightly. "And then," she said, a sly smile curving her lips, "we pull off the mask. Literally." I couldn't help but laugh, though my heart still ached. "You make it sound easy." She reached over, gripping my hand. "You've lived behind that mask long enough, Mads. Now it's time to use it, on your terms." The plan began to take shape. We bought a small camera, discreet, no bigger than a lipstick tube. Sophie tested it twice, making sure the angle was perfect. "It'll catch everything," she promised. His face, his reaction, all of it. Then came the props. A plain white t-shirt, a pair of old jeans, and one Polaroid photo I had taken earlier that week. My bare face, hair pulled back, no makeup, no filters. It was terrifying to look at, but I knew it was the weapon I needed. We would leave them in the hotel bathroom, quiet, undeniable proof of a woman Chris couldn't explain. But Sophie and I weren't alone. We had help. Victor Miles, the hotel's manager, was an old acquaintance of Sophie's cousin. When we explained the situation, his brows arched, but he didn't hesitate. "You're saying you want me to make it look like someone else stayed in the room before him?" he asked. "Not just stayed," Sophie replied. "Still there." Victor chuckled softly, leaning back in his chair. "Sounds like trouble." Then he looked at me. "But from what I've heard, he deserves it. Fine. I'll have housekeeping forget a glass with lipstick marks by the sink, a hair tie on the nightstand, things a man like him can't ignore." "Thank you," I whispered, relief and nervousness tangling in my chest. And then came Rebecca Hayes, Chris's ex. Meeting her was like opening a door I wasn't sure I wanted to step through. She was older than me by a few years, poised, with eyes that had seen too much. When Sophie introduced us, Rebecca studied me carefully, her gaze sharp but not unkind. "So, you're with Chris now," she said. I nodded, unsure how much to confess. But before I could speak, she sighed. "He hasn't changed, has he?" I shook my head. "No, he hasn't." Rebecca leaned forward, her voice low. Then you need to know what he's capable of. The lies, the games. He'll make you feel like the only woman in the world one moment and throw you away the next. Her lips curved into a bitter smile. He did it to me, took money, took time, took years I can't get back. If you're planning to show him who he really is, I'm in. Her words sent a chill through me, not of fear, but of recognition. Chris wasn't just my betrayer. He was a pattern, a predator. And maybe, just maybe, exposing him wasn't just for me. It was for every woman who had believed him. The night before the trip, I laid everything out on my bed, the elegant dress I would wear when we checked into the hotel. Midnight blue, sleek, with a neckline designed to command attention. The heels that made me taller, sharper. The makeup palette that would transform me into the flawless vision Chris adored. And beside it all, the t-shirt, the jeans, the Polaroid. The version of me he had never accepted. The version he had rejected at the cafe without even realizing who I was. I stared at them both. Two sides of myself laid bare. And for the first time, I didn't feel weak. I felt powerful. Because this time, the choice of who I would be, mask or bear, belonged to me. When the morning came, Chris picked me up with his usual easy smile, kissing my cheek, complimenting my dress, my hair, my carefully painted lips. I smiled back, playing the part one more time. But inside, my heart whispered, "Enjoy this while you can, Chris. Tonight, everything changes." At the hotel, Victor discreetly met us in the lobby, nodding slightly before disappearing into the back offices. I knew the room would already be staged. The lipstick glass, the hair tie, the photo waiting in the bathroom drawer, the signs of another woman. Later, as Chris admired the view from the balcony, his arm lazily draped around me, I excused myself to the bathroom. I opened my bag, pulled out the camera, and slipped it into place on the nightstand, angled perfectly. The little red light blinked once before disappearing, ready to record. I caught my reflection in the mirror, lips painted, eyes sharp, face flawless. The illusion was complete, but soon, the illusion would end. When I stepped back into the room, Chris turned, smiling that same dazzling smile. "You look incredible," he said softly. I smiled, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Thank you. You have no idea what I have planned." And with that, the trap was set. The stage was ready. The mask was in place. And I was prepared to watch it all come crashing down. The trap was set. The room was staged. And I only had to wait for the cracks to appear. It didn't take long. Chris had gone into the bathroom to wash his hands before dinner. I lingered by the window, sipping champagne, pretending calm, though every beat of my heart thundered like a drum. Then I heard it. A pause, a shuffle, the sound of a drawer sliding open. Seconds later, his voice carried through the room. "Madeline? What is this?" I turned slowly, deliberately, setting my glass down. He stood in the doorway of the bathroom, the Polaroid photo clutched in his hand. His face was pale, his brows furrowed. Behind him, I could see the shirt and jeans draped over the edge of the tub, the glass with lipstick marks on the counter. "What do you mean?" I asked, my tone soft, almost amused. "This!" he snapped, holding up the photo. "Whose things are these? There's another woman here, isn't there?" I tilted my head, letting silence hang for a moment. Then I stepped toward him slowly, my heels clicking against the polished floor. "Another woman?" I repeated, my voice low. "Why does that scare you, Chris?" His eyes darted, his jaw tightened. "Don't play games with me. Just tell me who she is." For a moment, I said nothing. I simply smiled, then turned and walked to the door. With one gentle knock, I let myself out, then waited. I knew the camera was rolling. I knew his panic was building. And then I walked back in. This time I didn't creep. I didn't hide. I pushed the door wide, stepping inside like I owned the room. My dress shimmered under the soft light, my makeup perfect, every detail of me designed to dazzle. Chris froze, his face drained of color. For a heartbeat, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Madeline, where did you go? Who was here?" His voice cracked with panic. I said nothing. Instead, I walked past him, straight into the bathroom. The photo, the clothes, the glass, all exactly where I had left them. I met my own reflection in the mirror, flawless and untouchable. And then I began. First, the lipstick. I pressed a cotton pad to my mouth, wiping away the crimson until only pale lips remained. Next, the eyeliner, smudging black across my cheeks before it disappeared down the drain. Layer by layer, the mask slipped away. Foundation, blush, shimmer, gone. Chris stood in the doorway, frozen, watching me strip away the illusion he adored. His breath grew ragged. "Stop! What are you doing?" he whispered. I looked at him through the mirror. "This," I said softly, "is me." His eyes widened, his body tensed. "No, no, you're not her. You don't look like her." I wiped the last of the powder from my skin, staring at the bare face staring back at me. For the first time, I didn't flinch. I didn't turn away. I let him see. "Chris," I said, turning to face him fully. "This is the woman you've been with all along. Not the mask, not the illusion. Me. And you didn't even recognize me when I stood in front of you at that cafe. Do you understand now?" His lips parted, but no words came. Panic flickered in his eyes like an animal cornered. Then, without warning, he dropped the photo, pushed past me, and bolted for the door. I didn't chase him. I simply watched as the camera blinked silently, recording every desperate move. By the time he reached the hotel lobby, his breath heavy, his suit disheveled, she was already waiting. Rebecca. She leaned against the marble column, arms crossed, her eyes sharp and unforgiving. When Chris stumbled into view, she straightened and stepped directly into his path. "Going somewhere?" she asked coolly. He froze, stunned. "Rebecca, what are you doing here?" She smiled, a bitter, knowing smile. "Same thing you always do, Chris. Running. But this time, you're not running from me. You're running from the truth." He tried to push past, but she blocked him effortlessly. "Lai trokuha, Chris?" She spat, her voice steady, filled with scorn. "But this time, you've been caught, and the whole world will know." His eyes darted wildly, searching for escape, but every door seemed closed. The mask he had worn for so long, the mask of charm, of confidence, of control, had shattered, and I stood at the top of the stairs, watching it unfold. For once, it wasn't me hiding behind layers of foundation and color. It was him. And now, everyone could see the truth. The room was quiet after Chris ran. Only the faint hum of the air conditioner filled the silence, while the little red light on the camera blinked once before shutting off. The performance was over, and for the first time, I didn't feel like the actress anymore. I felt like the director. The story had been mine all along. Later that night, Sophie joined me in the hotel suite. She carried her laptop, her eyes lit with a mixture of triumph and anticipation. "Are you ready?" she asked, setting it on the table. I nodded slowly. The footage, Chris's panic, his denial, his horror as I peeled away the mask. It was all there. Every expression, every stammering word, every frantic glance over his shoulder. The camera had captured it all. Sophie's fingers flew across the keyboard, uploading the file to a new anonymous account. No names, no traces, just the raw video, unedited, undeniable. "Let's see how long it takes," she murmured, hitting post. It didn't take long at all. By morning, the video was everywhere. The views climbed by the thousands, then millions. People shared it with disbelief, with anger, with grim satisfaction. This man didn't recognize his own girlfriend without makeup. The mask comes off, and so does his charm. The captions wrote themselves. Within hours, women began to comment. Some shared their own stories, others recognized him. And then, the messages poured in. He lied to me too. He used me for money. He promised me love, but all he wanted was control. The pattern was undeniable. Chris Dalton wasn't just a man who betrayed me. He was a man who had built his entire life on lies, preying on women who trusted him. Now, the facade had cracked, and there was no way back. By midday, articles appeared online, screenshots of the video, headlines screaming his name. His employers, his so-called friends, everyone began to distance themselves. The man who once stood so tall in his perfect suit, dazzling with charm, was now nothing more than a scandal, a cautionary tale. And me? I stayed in the hotel room, not hiding, not running, but resting. I sat on the velvet armchair by the window, the city sprawling beneath me, and for the first time in years, I let my skin breathe. No foundation, no lipstick, no mask. Just me. It felt strange and liberating. I touched my bare cheek, the same cheek I had hidden under powder for so long, and smiled. Sophie poured us both a glass of wine, lifting hers in a toast. To freedom, she said simply. I clinked my glass against hers, the sound sharp and clear. To freedom, I echoed, and I meant it. That night, I didn't set an alarm. I didn't wake up before dawn to reapply the mask. I slept. Deeply. Peacefully. When morning came, sunlight streamed through the curtains, warm and golden. I rose slowly, stretching, my face bare, my hair messy, my heart light. I slipped into a simple dress, nothing dramatic, nothing painted. Just fabric against skin. Just me. Downstairs, the lobby buzzed with whispers. I knew people had seen the video. I knew eyes followed me. But this time, I didn't shrink. I didn't reach for powder or color to shield myself. I lifted my chin, walked past them, and stepped out into the streets. The air was crisp, alive with the energy of a new day. Cars honked, people hurried past. The city moved as if nothing had changed. And yet, everything had changed because I had. As I walked, the sunlight kissed my face, and for the first time, I didn't wonder if anyone thought I was beautiful. I didn't wonder if I looked enough. I simply was. And in that moment, the words rose within me, quiet, steady, unshakable. I don't need anyone to love the mask I wear. I deserve someone who will love the woman beneath it. The city stretched before me, vast and endless, filled with possibility, and I stepped forward, barefaced, unafraid, radiant in the morning light. The story of Chris Dalton was over, but mine had only just begun.